We continue today with the 13th chapter of the book of Yirmiyahu, Perek Yud Gimel. Ko amar Adonai Elai, Aloch v'kanita lacha ezor pishtim, v'samto al motnecha, uvamayim lo tiviehu. God tells Yirmiyahu to go and to buy a linen loincloth, something, a belt, underwear, or something that's worn around the waist, made of linen, and put it around your loins, but do not dip it into water. So wear it, keep it nice and dry. So Yirmiyahu reports that he bought the loincloth as God commanded, and he was wearing it around his waist. And now God appears to me a second time. And what does God say? Asher kanita, asher al motnecha, v'kum leich pirata, v'tamnehu sham b'neki kasala. So God says to take that loincloth, and hopefully it's not, months later, he's been wearing it for months. God says to take the loincloth and go at once to Prat. Now, the classical commentaries understand Prat as being the Euphrates, which is oftentimes the word in the Torah for Prat for the Euphrates is Prat, Nahar Prat. Here it doesn't say Nahar Prat, and that would have been a very, very long journey. And so presumably there's a place, Prat, which is sort of a Nachal also, which is in, it's near actually Anatot. It's near where Yirmiyahu is from, which would make more sense. It's not as far of a journey, and it would be more effective. It's close to hometown. And what does God say? And leave it there in the cleft of rock. Ve'elech ve'etmenehu biprat. So I went and I buried it in Prat, kasher tziva Adonai oti, as God has commanded me. Va'imi ketzi yamim rabim. And after many days after that, we don't know how many days it is. It could be 6 months. It could be a year. It could be 10 years. No, we don't know. Unclear. Vayomer Adonai Elai, and God said to me, Kum lech parata, v'kach misham et ha'ezor asher tziviticha letamno sham. And God said, go at once to Prat and take the loincloth that I've commanded you to bury there. Ve'elech parata ve'echpor. So I went to Parata and I dug. And I took the loin cloth, minamakom asher timantiv shama, in the place where I had hidden it. And it was ruined. It could no longer be placed on. It could no longer be worn. Now, this is, one of many places in the Tanakh where we have one of our great leaders and prophets being told to do some sort of stunt, for lack of a better term. There are other places where it's more, sort of more direct as such, where it's, Hosea is told to marry a prostitute, and Yezkel is told to lie on his side. There are a lot of different prophets who are told. Yirmiyahu is going to be told other things as well that he's supposed to do that are sort of symbolic. And there's a question that's oftentimes asked: was this something they really had to do, or was this something that was just in a dream? Here, what would be the big deal if he had to wear this loincloth and hide it and then go dig it up and pick it up? It's more sort of in the story of Hosea, who's told to marry a prostitute to demonstrate how Bnei Yisrael have prostituted against God. That's more of the question that's asked, but a lot of the Rambam and a lot of the more rational commentaries say that this is just a dream. It's just a prophetic idea, but it's not something that happened in reality. And others, the Abarbanel and others, the Abarbanel says, well, what would be the point of telling Hosea to do this, or Yirmiyahu to do this, or Yeshaya or Chezkel to do these things if they don't actually do it? They have to do it, and there sort of has to be an audience. It has to be demonstrated to everybody. So the debate here, it's less interesting in terms of whether or not I would say it's less interesting. It's just less of a crazy thing to be doing, as opposed to going and marrying a prostitute to show Bnei Yisrael have been rebelling against God. So why does he have to do this? Vayidvar Adonai Elai lemor, and then God spoke to Yirmiyahu and said, Ko amar Adonai. This is how I'm going to destroy the pride of Judah and the pride of Jerusalem. This evil nation who has refused to listen to my words and gone on their own path, what they wanted to do, and they worshipped other gods, bowed to them. Just as this, a loincloth, is no longer good for everything, so too that's what's going to happen to them. If you had kol beit Yisrael, if you had kol beit Yehuda, ne'um Adonai, liot li la'am, u'l'shem, u'l'tihila, u'l'teferet, v'lo shameo. Because just as the loincloth clings to a man's loins, so I brought Bnei Yisrael close to me. And think of the intimacy. We talked about sort of the different relationship, the different ways that the relationship between God and the Jewish people is described. Parent-child, mother-child, or lovers, husband and wife. And that's the way, in a sense, this intimate, this loincloth, this thing that goes over your private parts that would only be seen, by your partner. That's why it seems to be described in this way here. I made them, I was close with them. I became their, I brought them close to me so that they could become famous and praiseworthy, but they did not obey. And so tell them this. God says every jar should be filled with wine. And when they say to you, don't we know that every jar should be filled with wine? I guess these are wine jars. These are not olive jugs or something. Say to them, I'm going to fill with drunkenness all of the inhabitants of this land, the king who sits on the throne of David, the priests, the prophets, all of the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And I will smash them one against the other, parents and children alike. There'll be no pity, no compassion, no mercy. They will be completely destroyed. So you are going to be full of drunkenness, drunken on your own success. We had that idea so many times in the book of Yeshaya, drunk to the point that you don't understand what's going on. Think of Purim, right? Arur, Haman, Baruch, Mordechai, Baruch Haman, Arur, Mordechai. You're drunk. You don't understand. You don't see. Bnei Yisrael haven't seen anything. It's like they're drunk. They're completely unable to understand. And unlike in the book of Yeshaya, where Yeshaya talks about, the people who can hear, their ears will be open. That's not what's going to happen here. Here, there's going to be no mercy. There's only going to be destruction. Shemu v'hazinu al tigbahu ki Adonai ber. Listen, pay attention. This is what God has spoken. Don't be haughty. Don't be gavoa. Stop thinking of your own success and your own drunkenness. Yes, you survived. Excuse me. Somebody near my car is playing very loud music. Yes, you survived Sancherev, but that doesn't mean you're going to survive the next time. Continuing verse 16. Tnu la'Adonai Elohechem kavod b'terem yachshich u'v'terem yit nagfu raglechem al harei nashef v'kivitem la'or v'sama litzalmavet v'shit la'arafel. Give honor to God before darkness descends, right? Maybe you still have a chance before your feet stumble on the mountains in the shadow when your hope for light is turned to darkness and becomes deep gloom. You still have a chance. However, v'im lo tishma'ua, b'mistarim tivken nafshi mipnei geva, v'damoa tidma v'tereid eini dima ki nishpa eder Adonai. Because if you don't give heed, if you don't listen, then my inmost self will weep because of your arrogance. My eye will, the tears will flow from my eye. There'll be so many copious tears because God's flock is taken captive. Who's talking there? Is this perhaps Yirmiyahu saying it? Or there's understand that God is crying, as we've seen interpretation multiple times over the last chapter, that God himself, as God said back to Yirmiyahu, when Yirmiyahu said in yesterday's chapter, why did the wicked prosper? God said, I'm crying with them, and that's what's said here. Just going back earlier in the chapter before we continue with the next part, this idea of this loincloth is very strange. So why the loincloth? So an azor is used multiple times in the Tanakh in different places. Eliyahu was known for his azor, for the it talked about which may have been about his personal strength. We talk about the Mashiach in the book of Yeshivas, azor motnav. And so there are places where it's connected with God, connected but protection with God. And there are also places where it identifies sort of not listening with God. And so that's part of the reason why this azor, yes, it's saying because of the closeness, but there could have been other things that you could wear a hat. A hat is, connected and on your head. And it's right. So God has take this hat and buried it. But this is understand seemingly a more intimate idea between God and the Jewish people. And the fact that sort of gird your loins is this phrase that's used in the Tanakh many times, right? The loin showing sort of the strength. You have the belief, you have the strength and power, the loincloth that's going to be worn by the Messiah has stakau mishpat to it, but you guys have buried it. It's not noticeable anymore. All of those things, the connection between you and God is not there anymore. So different ways of understanding this, unclear exactly, but just a little suggestion. Continuing in verse 18, pasuk Yudchet. Emor lamelech v'lagvira hashpilu shevu ki yarad meroshetechem ateret tifartchem. Go and say to the king and the queen mother, sit in a lowly spot, for your crowns are abased. Your glorious crowns are no longer. Who is this king? So those who say maybe it's Yehoiachin, unclear as to which of the kings of Yehuda it is. Arei hanegev sugru v'ein poteach aglat Yehuda kulo aglat shlomim. The cities of the Negev are shut; they're not open. Judah is exiled completely; all of it is exiled. So, is this something that's happened already? Is this something that Yirmiyahu is saying is going to happen? But he's unfortunately fully sure that it's going to happen. So lift up your eyes and look who's coming from the north. Where are the sheep entrusted to you, the flock of your pride that you took in, right? So this is understood by some, again, that this is sort of going to be said after Jerusalem is destroyed, right? That it's saying to the king and the queen mother, the king would be no longer in Israel, but right, where are the people that you're supposed to be guarding? Where are the people that you're supposed to be watching? You're supposed to be the shepherd. Let's think back to the book of Malachim where we talked about David, right? Shlomo, when Shlomo is ready to cut the baby in half, and then he doesn't. We talked about that as a metaphor of the idea of keeping the baby, keeping Bnei Israel together and keeping them alive. And it was responsibility of the kings. And at times we talked about the responsibility of the prophets, Elisha and Eliyahu, keeping the baby alive, right? And that's those stories of their resurrection of the dead of Elisha and Eliyahu. They're the ones who are keeping Bnei Israel alive. Here it's being said to the king, you didn't do it. The flock that you were supposed to take pride in, that was entrusted to you, you did not take care of them. They're gone. They're dead. Matomri kiyivkod alayich v'at limadet otam alayich alufim larosh halo chavalim yochezuch mo eshet leda. What will you say to those, right, who are in charge, those among you who were trained, right? You're going to have pain like the pain of a woman in childbirth. V'chitomri bilvavech madua karuni ele. And if you ask yourself, why do these things happen to me? It's because of your terrible sins, your avonot, right? Your in a sense, right? What it says here is your skirts are lifted up. Everybody, you've exposed yourself. Everybody sees your embarrassment. Your limbs are exposed. Hayahafoch kushi orel, very difficult verse, this verse. V'navmer chavur borotav. Can the Cushites, the dark-skinned person change their skin? Can the lepers remove their spots? Just as much can you do good who are practicing doing evil. So here it's saying almost like, just like you can't change your skin color, just like the leper can't get rid of their spots, you have become so bad that you cannot possibly become good. That's the way the verses understand it. That seems to go against, in many ways, what Judaism's about with right Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that we have a chance. There are people in history, such as Pharaoh, who have their free will taken away. God says here, to a certain extent, it's like you've had your free will taken away. Has it really been taken away, or is it Avera goreret Avera, sin after sin after sin? You don't even know what's good. Vafitzeim kikasho ver leruach midbar, will scatter you like straw that flies before the desert wind. Zegoralech minat midayich meitinu madonai. This is going to be your lot, right? God, the word goral, God gave a goral, God gave places, gave lots to Bnei Yisrael in their nachalah. Goral was what's used. Now your lot is not a place for your children for all time in the land of Israel, be it with your tribe. Your portion is you're going to be scattered in the wind like straw in the desert. Because you forgot me and trusted lies. I in turn will lift your skirt over your face and your shame will be seen, right? You're hiding your shame, you're hiding your embarrassment. Everybody's going to see it. I see your adulteries. I see all the lust, all your depravity, your vile acts on the hills. Oy lach Yerushalayim, lo titari, acharei matai od. Woe to you, Jerusalem, who will not be pure. How much longer will it be? Right? How much longer will it be? You can understand in different ways. How much longer will it be until you're finally purified? Maybe the Second Temple period. How much longer will it be until the destruction that we need to wipe away the sins? And so here we see a chapter with, I think, it's a fascinating chapter. The idea, the question of Yirmiyahu, who at times is going to, do things like this yoke he's talking about with his loincloth, and right, the demonstration of different methods of trying to teach. But ultimately, right, it's all about the terrible destruction. And what the really fascinating thing in this chapter is the idea here, just like a dark-skinned person can't make their skin light, and a light-skinned person can't make their skin dark, and the leopard can't remove its spots, and the zebra can't remove its stripes. B'nai Yisrael, you have no free will in a sense. You've gotten so bad that there's no chance that you can possibly come back. And that is a terrible, terrible statement. And hopefully, a couple of weeks, like we said, to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it lets us understand that unlike that generation, we have this opportunity. We should certainly see it as a blessing every year as we reach this point in time of starting over, starting fresh, leaving the mistakes, the errors behind. And we have the choice of starting again. As it said earlier in this book, Shuvu Vanim Shovavim, we hope that we can repent.